Hello everyone and welcome to our first edition of 10 Win Tuesday. We'll be playing through in best of one with a deck and trying to get to 10 wins, just seeing how long it takes us. So we'll be recording our first episode here on channel Trevor-The-Timmy. What we're going to be playing today is Snow Red, so just an aggressive red deck. Some of the changes, you can see the list here from some of the other versions of this. I'm just going up in Frostbites. I feel like definitely in best of one, having that cheap interaction, especially when it's generally just lightning bolts for creatures, is outstanding. We're playing one more of Torbrand than a lot of the decks. Just very good in a mirror and any type of aggressive game. Obviously being snow, we have our snow-covered mountains and our 4 faceless havens, so taking advantage of those snowlands. That and Frostbite are really our only snow payoff, per se. Definitely both worth playing snow, though there's very little downside to playing it in this deck since it's a monocolored deck. Getting the 4 creature lands is just huge in red. It's tough for if they get to tap out for a sweeper, you still get to hit them for 4 the next turn in a lot of games. We are playing with 1 castle. Anymore, I feel like is really pushing it just because you do have the havens in here. And it can get a little awkward if your draw is just a castle or 2 and havens. But it's still nice to have 1 just for pumping the team. Standard pretty much for the rest of it. We're just going with a 1 Phoenix. I know some lists are running the 5-drop dragon, and I just don't feel like that's great or exactly where you want to be in an aggressive deck. So this is what we're going with. Here's the list for everyone. And I would be very happy if you'd consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Would definitely appreciate that. But let's jump on in here. See how many games it takes us to get to 10 wins. Hopefully not too many. Hopefully we can do it in like 15 or 20 instead of 50 or something. But being best of one, it should go somewhat quick. So we'll be able to tell at least by the length of this video a little. Get us a good first dive into the standard metagame. If you have any other decks you'd like to see, definitely leave a comment with those that you'd like to see. We'll be mulliganing this with 3 of these. They do play together okay, because you can sacrifice 1 and always get 2 tokens, because you'll have 4 power just between the 2 of them. But not having an early play other than bite, and we do have 2 removal spells here. But we could just end up not playing a creature if we don't hit a land, and that paired with the fact that we have 3 of a legendary creature makes this a mulligan for me. This is some interesting art. Opponent is just waiting, so we will mulligan. This is better. Question is, do we keep a land or do we keep 2 of these? The lands don't play together particularly great, especially with most of our, we don't have a lot of other costs, so I think we are going to get rid of a annex still, but having duplicates of either is not particularly great. The only plus side with the lands is if they do remove 1, you still have the other. So if we're playing in some kind of control deck, that should be pretty solid. Of course, we are apparently just playing the mono red mirror. Having extras of these should help us out there, especially in best of one. Just removes most things for 1 mana. Now, the awkward thing is having 2 colorless lands is not particularly great. Oh, we will block if they attack, which they smartly do not. We'll just Bone Crusher here. So if they had attacked, we can block when this dies. It does the 2nd damage to it. So that's a good choice by our opponent not to attack into that. No reason to trade your 2-drop with upside for a 1/1. Okay. Well, this is a little awkward because, again, we can not play 2 spells, whereas if one of these was a red source, we could get a couple spells in. So assuming I want to spend most of my mana, our options are either play our own here or play a Bone Crusher. I think we're going to go with a Bone Crusher. Just gets a little more power down to start. We will not attack. So he should be good in the mirror, kind of one of the breakers, the main one being Embercleave. Obviously, we do not have Embercleave, so that's not particularly great for us. We'd like to hit another red source so we can start double spelling or casting either of these. Yeah, we really do need a red source here. Let's Frostbite and we'll remove him. then they can't block with anything. We can start getting aggressive. Drawing 2 of these is a little awkward. Oh, they do let themselves get 2 tokens. They still cannot block, but they set themselves up pretty well for an Ember Cleave. Interesting spot where drawing a Snow-Covered Mountain is probably our best draw. So we can get a Cleave in and end this really quick. I assume there's a Cleave on their part here. Yep. Is that lethal 10? No, so we do need to leave something back here. In that case, we can't cleave for a bunch of extra damage. So we can only reduce it by 1 then, so it still is costing 5. That's 10, and then 11. And we die in the backswing because here's 8, 9, 10. So this is probably just going to be blocking one of these and trying to kill the other. But we will get in for 4, so next turn we can swing for what should be lethal. Now, if they have their 3rd Rimrock Knight, we're dead. I won't play around the 3rd Knight, though, just for what that's worth. Interesting. And we're not going to throw this in front of it. We get the option of throwing this in front, which we probably do want to do because they can have Bone Crusher to do 2 damage. So the difference of taking 8 versus 7 is pretty relevant. So we will make that block. The alternate is we can throw this in front and then have 2 2/2s here. I really like having this with Ember Cleave, though. This puts a lot of damage up. So since these can't block, we're going to do 1 to their face. And then hope they don't have land double Bone Crusher. Okay, well that's not great. They can do 2 to us there. So the good thing here is we can play this. When we swing with everything, Cleave will only cost 2, so we can still cast that. Let's get in there. Well, we got him. Getting that first win off the mono red mirror. I think that's how we've built our deck, at least in theory, to be a little better there. Obviously, it's best of 1, so anything can happen, but we'll take that. Getting a win on the mirror is always nice. From my experience in this format so far, just like the carryover from previous formats, drawing Ember Cleave is huge because that's just going to end the game out of nowhere. Make it so much shorter. Getting your cheap removal is pretty relevant too, to try to keep Ember Cleaves off. So for us, thoughts here, we have a couple 1-drops and then a follow-up, and then if we hit another red land, we can play him. So it seems reasonable. Probably start with the champion. Now we will not start with the champion since it's not getting in for damage anyway. Normally my default is just get the damage when you can, but obviously their 0/2 is going to block our 1/1 because we have no ability to play any kind of trick. Looks like we're playing against Gruul here. Interesting. Okay, we got the double Gilded Goose start. Let's see if they go for double blocks or block both. I mean, we can eat a goose then. Which we'll take. Converting that into a card is not the worst thing ever. Got a removal spell, it looks like. Probably Bone Crusher. Oh, Wicked Wolf, okay. That's a very good one against red decks. Just keeps getting bigger, especially with 2 goose. We could use a removal spell for the goose. See, the awkward thing is they can just make this indestructible at any point. So we're not going to attack. We're going to try to build up wide and then hopefully cleave them out. So for that to work, most likely we probably need another red source. Or them to get overly aggressive with Wolf. If they don't have a super strong draw, then we hit another red. We can basically go next turn, cast Knight, maybe cast second Knight. If we draw red right away, we play him first, obviously. And then look for a turn where we can cleave. Hopefully, if we're hitting enough lands or hitting more lands, we can cleave and Knight at the same turn on this, which will just be a boatload of damage, especially if that's already out. Those two do work together very nice. The awkward thing is Haven makes it difficult. Okay, so drawing Bone Crusher is good because we want to get rid of that goose. The downside is we do not have a lot of forward aggression here, so we're probably going to pass. They're going to have to goose, and we'll probably just kill the goose in response. Doesn't really make a difference, but then hopefully they don't have any plays after that. If they just pass their turn, we're in no different spot, because then they haven't used the mana from goose. And that's good. I mean, this wolf can still be indestructible multiple times, so it does hold us back, but it's not forever in theory now, and there's a limit to how big it's getting. Otherwise, they can just sit behind goose for as long as they want. We're just going to go with a mana efficient play and get him out there. We will not attack. If they're not playing anything, yeah, there we go. We'll take the win. If they're not playing anything, we're going to get there eventually. Next turn, this is a 10 double strike. 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 double strike, but we can actually make it 11. So the opponent was obviously a little stuck on lands. Removing goose is a good way to go. We'll take it. Got 2 wins. We played a game before, so that's why this is going to be off, but we'll get up to our 10 wins, hopefully. Playing the aggressive decks in best of 1 tends to work out well for that. I'll continue to talk through that as we post more and more videos, but it's always a good idea, in my opinion, to have a aggressive deck for best of 1. You can play other decks as you want to, but when you're trying to play free-to-play, we're going to keep this. No 1-drop's a little awkward, but we can grind a little bit, which we might need against Yorion. Just saying, trying to play free-to-play, if you only have 20 minutes or half hour one night to play, you still always want to get at least a win or two, just to get that first win of 250 gold, and then as many of the next 3 as you can to get to the 100. They each give 100 gold to that point before it goes down. So getting those first couple wins is pretty big. So if you play a Yorion deck, you might only get to play 1 game if you only have a half hour a day to play. And if that's what you really enjoy, great. But if you're trying to maximize your free-to-play, you do want to get the the gold when you can. I mean, definitely sometimes it's like, oh, maybe there's a weekend you have more time and you can play your controlling deck, but I think if you have the wild cards for it, playing in aggressive deck is a good place to be. We're probably going to Frostbite this and then hold a Bone Crusher. Just we don't want to trade. I mean, I assume they probably will trade, but we want a repeated source of damage. And if they don't do anything, we'll Bone Crusher their face, so we can play a Bone Crusher next turn. Alternatively, we could tap out for one, but being a Urine deck, they should have some kind of sweep or some removal, so I don't think we're just going to run them over. So we're going to try to maximize everything we can and keep getting damage in. Okay, so they are ramping. So we're Salt-Eye. Salt-Eye splashing that, so they're going for that end game where the Salt-Eye Ultimatum, I think it's Emergent Ultimatum is the name, where they get the take an extra turn, get Vorinclex, and most likely get Valky. So that's a solid combination. So we will not make this play, but we could activate a Faceless Haven. You want to make sure which I think it tells you which one entered this turn. So you don't want to activate the land that just entered because it won't be able to attack. It will be summoning sick. So if we wanted to, we would activate the Haven, the one that's already been on the field. It's better to continue to get our threats out though. So we will get in for 3, and then we'll cast as many creatures as we can so we can start to get an Embercleave on. If the opponent doesn't do anything next turn, we can go for a cleave and a win if they haven't removed creatures. Okay, that's understandable that they go with binding. So they get to destroy something, then they will eventually get to search for a forest. They give their creatures death touch. I assume we're seeing an island unless they have a tap land in their hand. So he can cleave next turn, which does a boatload of damage, and that's most likely what we're going to do. I think they're trying to represent something. I don't think they actually have anything. And what... we should go past blockers. So I don't think they have anything they can flash in, but always better to make sure before. So doing 9 to them here, really, as long as we did 8, puts them on a clock where even if they have a Wrath and kill our entire board, we still get a lethal creature on the field. So they really need something to clear our board and gain some amount of life. Or take multiple turns, put a big blocker out that also gains life, something like that. Just killing both of our creatures is not enough. One of my personal favorites is playing just aggressive decks. All decks can be a lot of fun in mid-range control, but just being aggressive and making your opponent kind of limited in what they can do because they don't really have a good option here. Okay, so they might have a removal spell. We're probably going to go for the cleave on this and go that way. Like, no reason to activate this. Yeah, and they're dead. Yeah, we just limit what they can do. They needed a couple removal spells and then some way to stop the Haven. But on the thought of being aggressive, it just really limits what your opponent's choices are. You have to play around or try to think of what they could have to stop you. Definitely don't know every single card in Standard, especially it being a little bit newer Standard. But you have the general idea of, okay, do they need 2 removal spells here? How likely is that? If you were playing for a high-level event, you'd want to have a good idea of their deck lists. I have a very general idea of that Salt-Eye list. Okay, playing against Lurrus probably means Rogues, which is really not a great hand against. having 4 lands. We're going to play this on 2, play this on 3, and then hope to cleave. That's not particularly great, especially this is going to run in and get killed by rogues. I think we're going to mulligan. This is also pretty bad, but we're going to pitch one of these back and keep it. That's 6 versus that 7 versus this 6. I would take the 7, but don't get to make choices that way. If they are playing rogues, we can at least kill the first rogue, and it looks like they are, based on their not activating or by not auto passing. They're playing rogues too, so something you pick up from Arena, unless our opponent really intelligently put stops on. So they're going to flash in the rogue on a turn. We're going to kill it. We play the Haven here, so if we want to attack, we could do it next turn too. So either the opponent did not want to play it into what assume is a Bone Crusher. Pretty clearly they're on rogues. Or they really have their stops on well. We're going to play this out. We're not going to sit here and try to play a tap-out game against them. Sure, you've got the Thought Thief. The nice thing is our 1-mana spell, so just why I love this card in the deck is just the 1 mana is going to trade up on mana, which is not normally where Rogues is at. Normally they're the more efficient deck. So we do have the question here of, do we play him or do we play some combination of these? I think we are going to go to combat. We'll pump. If they've got their removal, got a removal spell, not great, but we'll go for it. So we could get blown out here, but then we do have 2 removal spells up, so if they flash in the Death Touch Rogue, we've got it. See if this draws something out. If they've got a removal spell, they should go for it in response. Make sure we're using our colorless mana, so we're holding up Frostbite. We'll hold these up. If they have something, they're going to flash it in anyway, and then we'll kill it. So the question is, do we get the Enforcer, or do we get the Thief? And we're going to go for both eventually. We're going to get the Thief for right now, because it will do damage when it attacks. Or do damage, excuse me. Obviously it does damage. It will mill when it attacks is what I meant to say. This mill's happening no matter what, so unless they want to main phase the second Thief, we can prevent a second mill from happening. So if they've got another one, play Robber. I'm just going to keep trying to be a little aggressive here. Interesting. Okay, well, I'm really glad we didn't tap out for him. So this would trade either way. And they can turn it into a 4/6 either way. Let's go for it. So it looks like they do not have anything. So they need to have something, otherwise they're in a really bad spot. They might not just be dead. But for their perspective, they want like Counterspell, Thieves Guild Enforcer. They've got Brazen. They can't have Brazen Borrower. They've got Lurrus. So Borrower's very good against this. Just unsummon it. They somehow main phase go for the draw. We've got them. Okay. So they need to hope they have a counter spell, or they're in chump block mode with a creature, because this will make him giant, and then. Oh, well, that's said for their sake. Hopefully they've got. That's Xaxes. I mean, if they didn't have a removal spell or a creature, that's the correct way to play. They just needed to kill something, but the way our hand lined up against that was very good. Okay, up to 4 wins so far. Going well. And back to the previous point, we're about 25 minutes in here playing, and we've picked up what I would recommend trying to do if you're staying free to play is just get 4 wins a day, and then sign out in most situations. We will keep this. We've got 1 drop, 2 drop. We've got 2 red sources. And we can remove, and then we've got probably the best card in our deck, Embercleave. So this seems like an easy keep. But try to get those 4 wins just so you maximize your high value gold, the 250 and then the 3 100s. It lets you, along with upgrading your quests, you can average over 1,000 gold a day, which is where you want to be. And the thing here is we can trade if we want, because they'll eat this and then this will kill it back. It first strike damages it, but then we do damage after. The question is if we want to do that. So they mulliganed, it looks like. So we could go for the more grindy play. I think we are going to Bone Crusher this, so we will not block. That makes it a little interesting. So we're going to Bone Crusher and then get in for 1. So one of my goals in the Red Mirror is trying to limit their creatures, because both of us want to Embercleave each other. This is ultimately the trump card in the Red Mirrors. So one of us having it and one of us not is a huge deal. So we're going to leave Charger back, because it doesn't allow this to attack, or they need to either use, if they have their 1 mana removal spell, which a lot of lists I've seen only have 2 of those, that's a fine trade for them. But if they have to use a Bone Crusher on it, it takes up most of their turn to remove this. So we're just going to get in there. We could regret leaving 1 damage on the table later, but they also now want to kill this at some point, because us getting Goldspan Dragon, it's a really good card, don't get me wrong. I don't love it in red decks. I tend to play exactly what we kind of thought would happen there. So it's tough to see, but we messed up what their turn is. They do have a 1 mana play, so that's nice, but it makes it a little awkward for them. They could have some 3 mana plays. So this is just, it is really good for us to not allow them to get that out. We're going to hit for a whole bunch of damage here. And there's the concession. This is Torbrand's kind of the second trump quote, I would say, in the mirror of Embercleave ends the games right on the spot. But if somebody gets Torbrand, it's tough to beat as well. That's where this list I did go up to the 3rd version of, or 3rd copy of him. A lot of lists run 1 to 2 from what I've seen. Playing best of 1, you run into a lot of red decks, so I do want to be equipped for the mirror. Okay, James, remember to stay hydrated when you're playing. You'll see me drinking water all the time. Very important. So they go first. So if they play a creature either on 1 or 2, we get to remove it and then kind of curve out. So this is a very good hand. We'll keep it, at least against most decks. This is probably really good against this deck. Our best hope is they Robber the Rich, but really any 2-drop we'll take that we can remove. Look at that fancy snow-covered mountain. I don't know how you get the Modern Horizons one on here. Somebody comment and tell me how you got Modern Horizons ones on here. Even that we'll remove. Just trading 1 for 2. We get to use our turn 1 mana. They didn't. That's why this card is just such a big deal to me. Just the mana efficiency. We undid their turn 2 play. Ours is still going. If they remove ours now, they're probably wasting their turn or not using their mana as efficiently as they'd like to. Interesting. Okay. Well, they hit a robber. So that actually changes what I will do here. Normally, I would just be playing this. I think we are going to remove this because we don't want them to take a robber. That lets them get a little too much value. We probably should have done both of these first. That's whenever. Okay, that will not do it in time. So we messed up there. I should have done both of these first, and we would have gotten to take a card. The reason for that is they're both in our adventure zone, so we only actually have 3 in hand, and they have 4. So definitely a mistake. Always good to be looking for areas to learn from. I'm sure I missed plenty, so always leave a comment if you notice something. I always like to learn and improve, but looking out for the areas you make mistakes from is a good way to do that. We're going to hold on. Since it's mono red, if there was a reason I thought they'd have discard, I'd get this out just so I wouldn't have to discard it. But I like being able to hold, basically hide it from them. It's not information they know, they can't count on it. And this just uses our mana most efficiently. Next turn we can, so we used all 4 mana here. Next turn we can use all 5 mana. And trying to use that really efficiently is a big deal. So we are going to attack because we'll eat whatever they block with this. Interesting. Do we think they have the cleave back? Well, we're not going to go for the cleave here either way. We're going to play both these out, and then I think we have the almost guaranteed win next turn. Maybe if we get this out there, does one more here? No, okay, so that would not be lethal. And then we, excuse me, if they have a removal spell to follow it up, if they have 2, let's say some combination of Bone Crusher and Frostbite, which is this one, they could remove it, and then we're just way behind, because then we have no creature that can attack right away with Cleave. I think this way we mostly just win. We will not block anything if they swing. Okay, that's probably not true. We will block this if they swing, but we will not block him. They got the 1 mana removal spell. Actually, with only that swing, we probably won't even block. We can take 2. It just doesn't matter. There's no real upside to blocking. Because if they have the removal spell for him, it's just really bad for us. So we can, if we spend 2, we still have 4 open. So we can remove Robber, which does give them a blocker, but not a relevant one. Or it gives them a creature, I should say. I should not use the term blocker because it obviously cannot block. At minimum, we have 4 unblocked damage coming in. We're just going to ensure we win. So when we Ember Cleave, I think going to any of them kills them, but putting it on the Rimrock makes it a 4-4, or a 4-2, excuse me, 4 damage is the key. But then from Torbran, it does 2 more each time. So that will be plenty to kill. If they had any kind of removal mana open, we would actually probably just equip the Torbran and ensure he lives. just because it's kind of both your trump cards there. But just ensuring we had lethal damage was good. No reason to let anything weird happen. I'm pretty sure it's lethal either way. But as they say, math is for blockers. We knew we had lethal one way. Up to 6 wins. Cruising a little bit. Hopefully we can keep this up. Oof, this is a really mediocre hand. So we play 1 on 2. Turn 3, we go with the Boulder Rush +2/+0. Hopefully get him for 5, and then play him. And then we're trying to cleave. It's not great, but it's functional. Cleave is our best card. It sucks that we basically mulligan to 6 here, but if we remove a cleave, I think we're keeping this as a 6. So we will get in with the champion. At least we can turn these on now. Let's maximize our damage. So this ensures each of these are worth 2 points before they're played as a creature, which lets us get that little bit extra damage in, which is nice. So I assume they're going to go for a block here, and we will eat it. Okay, if you do not want to go for it. I mean, they are playing around that. Probably correct, but the downside is we're just going to get to cleave them out if they let this go too long. Because we probably don't attack next turn. We play our Rimrock Knight, and then the following turn we go for a cleave. We will not attack. No reason here. But yeah, most likely next turn, just attack. Probably with everything. Depending on whatever they throw this in front of, we're going to eat. Unless it's this one, then fine, it can die and turn into another creature. But just go for the cleave and get the beatdowns on. That's not ideal. At least it turns into 2 creatures, but that's pretty good. We will not block. Oh, good. Makes him into a 4. Sure. I mean, they should grow this. At least gives them 1 life. And they're not in the best spot ever. I mean, their plan is probably to try to, if they have another mutate, kill Embercleave, but the fact that we have another one puts us in a pretty good spot. So we're probably just attacking with this, and with 8, I mean, we're going to eat 1 thing either way. And then we'll make more creatures, so that's fine. We'll play a little bit of a grindy game here. no reason to get these into combat dying. We're going to get rid of their bigger creature. And then we get 2 more 1/1s, which is good. I mean, he shrinks a little, but it's going to let us just keep going wider. Now, the downside here is if they do get another Gem Razor on this, they get to kill both things. But I think we are just so wide at that point, we can just Ember Cleave them out, or a combination of Ember Cleave, Bone Crusher. They really need to have some way to kill us. Just showcasing the power of Ember Cleave here, that it makes, they have just mammoth-sized creatures, and it just doesn't really matter. I mean, they've also flooded a little bit on lands compared to what we had, but we do have a reasonably low mana curve, plus 4 of ours function as creatures, and a 5th one is a Pump Source, which is really good when you're going wide this way. Him just adding resiliency to red is so good. So our opponent's either deep in the tank, or they're giving us a timeout where they know they've lost and they've just decided they're going to use as much of our time as possible. So we'll take that for a positive reason and remind everyone to consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Definitely trying a variety of things. We have a lot of draft videos that are already out and will continue to come out. We're moving into a lot of standard now that we've opened a bunch of packs for the set. So we'll keep doing videos like this, our 10 Win Tuesday videos. We'll have some other videos out where we look at budget potential decks. Yeah, it looks like they are on the timeout example. Let's equip here. So, to give credit to our opponent, they could have timed out. I've had it happen before. So if you've played against me, it does time out sometimes, or you get disconnected. Arena's not 100% perfect. But the fact that they played incredibly fast all game, and then the minute they know they're dead, they just stop playing, indicates to me that they're trying to give us a timeout. They don't like that they're losing, so they have decided they're going to waste as much of our time as possible. I assume as soon as this timeout happens, they will concede too, which basically... Well, there we go. Gotcha. We had so much extra damage. Okay, up to 7 wins. We're cruising right along here. Good old Snow Red. Love a good mono red deck. They're definitely the type of deck you can beat if you want to, but I do love being able to punish people who are not prepared for it. This is just an outstanding hand. So again, we'd love this to be a mirror outside if we don't have Embercleave, but any kind of creature deck where we can remove their 1 or 2 drop, go Robber of the Rich into Annex, into either removal spell, play a Bone Crusher later in the game. The reason we, in general, play him first is twofold. First, he protects our team, which is big. Interesting. Do we get in for a 1, or do we hold up the removal spell? I think we're going to hold up removal, because they're aggressive. If they have a robber, we want to kill it. So we'll do that. Generally, the multiple reasons are, first, he protects your team, so that's definitely a plus. He also gets bigger, gets damage in. And Bone Crusher gives you more options, so you can use the removal spell and then play him, so holding him as value. This is the exact reason we did not just kill the champion, is if they have this, they need to play it before combat. We trade up on mana, we don't give them any extra resources, and that's just so much more valuable. Just knowing how these games play out really allows you to get some advantage. Lets us, us getting in for a 1, where they get in for 2 is not a great trade, and we also get to trade up on mana, get to take one of the better creatures. Ours gets in. We don't get to a card, obviously, but we do have a bigger creature right now. We're traded, or even on life. I mean, them having another champion isn't great, so that probably leads to us bone crushing and playing our own champion. Just want to keep this where they're only doing 1 damage instead of doing 4 between them. They are a little ahead right now on the race, but since we have cleave is the reason we're continuing to race. They also missed a land, it looks like. So interesting choices. I think we're going to slow down here because they missed a land drop. This eats either of them, and even if they have the +2/+0, they still trade. So we're just going to play this out. No attacks. And start to build a board where we can get in there with a cleave. Okay, here's their land. Okay, so they also have a cleave, it looks like. That puts us in a really awkward spot. We're just going to play this out and try to go for a win next turn. So we really want to keep this one alive so we can get in there and cleave. If they swing all out, we're probably throwing the charger in front of the giant, so they're going to eat us with cleave. So we're going to go like this. So what this will do is, oh, that's the wrong one. So at least my thinking here, we'll see if something goes wrong, is this blocking, if they cleave, they eat this first, so it'll actually kill one of these before they do damage, because cleave will give it first strike, does damage here. This way, this would eat this if they don't pump it. If they do pump, fine. These, well, I guess they eat with cleave, but we still should be able to kill in the backswing. And this prevents some damage there. Can take out the champion. So we're going to go that way. I assume they're cleaving. If they do have cleave and knight, we're in trouble. Yeah, so it's played out exactly how we wanted. I mean, this doesn't really matter because they've already done the damage here. So we're going to go to the face. So they're just at the point of hope we don't have anything, it looks like. So I think we can play this because we'll still be swinging with 4. But it doesn't really matter. If they have a removal spell, it's awkward, so we're gonna... Oh, we got there. Look at that. Playing that red mirror. And definitely there's a lot of luck in the mirror too. I don't want to pretend like I'm some expert that just has it all figured out, but those are some of the patterns to look for. Noticing those goes a long way to just knowing how you want to play the game and how your opponents do. I think there's a lot of value in that. Okay, up to 8 wins. 2 more to go. Look at this guy. Just such a badass wolf. He's all scarred up here. Not somebody you want to mess with. Got the arrows hanging in. So this will come into play on tap because we have a snow cover mountain. Otherwise, these two are awkward together. So get our removal. We get to play a 2-drop, probably this one, because we want to get the value of pumping. And then we could pump and play this on turn 3 and have a cleave. So this is a pretty strong hand. Well, not the absolute ideal hand. Where we'll play different here is if they do have an aggressive 1-drop, we will frostbite because we want a robber. So getting cards out of our hand is good. We're gonna get the second red source down, get robber down, and hopefully hit something we want to play. Yeah, it's fine. It's nothing super exciting. We probably aren't gaining a lot of life. So now the question becomes, we probably will trade if they want to, but do we value playing that more, or do we want a random 1/1 from Annex? I think we'll take this. So play that out, go to combat. And then we are just going to play the knight out. The reason I think this is better than the 1/1 is this will actually turn into a 1/1 when it dies. And we're basically going to take a turn off for Annex, and then we're going to go cleave and try to just beat them by cleaving. Let's get that down. Okay. Gonna gain some lifelink there, huh? It's gonna make it a little harder to win. So we can play him out. I assume they don't want to block because this will pump our team. So we would trade and kill that. We'll see if they go for a block. We'll definitely pump the team. Okay, so the alternate option is we could cleave onto this too. Which we do want to get cleave out. The difference is this eats. Yeah, let's get the cleave out. Gains us some life, which will be good racing. Still gets in a lot of damage, and then it lets us do this next turn. I can see that going either way. I think just the deciding factor for me is this way keeps our creature alive, which is big. Okay, one more win to go. Just some beautiful artwork. You have to appreciate the art in Magic. I'm not even that huge of a fan of art in general. Not trying to offend anyone who does. There's some beautiful art, so I'm not minimizing anyone on that. It's just not something I'm as excited about as the gameplay, but there's some very beautiful art, so I really do appreciate that. It's just not my main draw to the game. Probably because I have very little artistic talent. I still appreciate those who have it. Let's get in there. Maybe we hit something relevant on this. I'm going to have to try to think about what my favorite art is in the game. The second copy of this is a little awkward. So I assume we've got a Wrath coming down. So we're not going to play another creature into that. Too bad we're a little ways away from that. So we're just going to hold this up. If they don't have the Wrath, it's a little awkward, but we'll just keep doing the damage. And I think with them foretelling that way, it's worth it. Sure, you've got it. So we're going to play Bone Crusher, even though it's not the most, well, going to play that out because it gets more damaging quicker. We're going to go with him just because we have 2, and it's more efficient. Normally I think they wouldn't want to hit Bone Crusher, and then it would do more damage. That's really awkward. Especially because they're going to get our Cleave next. Like, that's just about the worst case scenario. It's tough to play around the Orion cards because there's just so many too, but that is definitely something to keep in mind. Yeah, this is turning into a beating. So we may be on Haven beatdowns eventually. This is kind of a good draw actually to go with that because we at least get in for 3. They need another removal spell at least. So otherwise we're getting in with a Haven and there's a lot of damage coming in. Now they very easily could have one, but them having 2 Wraths hurts. Like, that's how you definitely lose as an aggressive deck. They got full value off the Nightmare too. So they can deal 2 damage to a tapped creature. Sure. They've left themselves dead. I don't know what they're thinking. The leave yourself dead on board is not what I recommend. Oh, that's cute. I haven't had that come up yet, that this being a changeling lets you cast the cards. That's good to know. Had not had that come up yet. Okay, well, thank you everyone for watching. That was a cool thing to learn at the end. There's always something, no matter how much you play a deck, there's always some corner case you can learn. We got to our 10 wins, so a successful first 10 win Tuesday. I'd appreciate everyone considering liking and subscribing to see more videos, because we'll have a lot more standard content coming out. We do quite a bit of drafting, as anyone who's been watching knows. If you have any decks you'd like to see played, definitely let me know. Definitely open to trying different decks, trying a variety of things. We'll probably try to play some meme decks eventually too. So thank you again, everyone, and have a great night.